Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I'm not liable. But before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you betting on getting injured this week?
Howdy, hello. I'm Vol Control, he, him pronouns, and this week I'm betting on Arthur's moral compass getting injured. Because this week has quite the moral dilemma, but I think only for Arthur Lester in character, not for us voters.
Yeah, we apparently had no problem figuring out what to do. Would you like to remind us of what we just listened to for the public who maybe hasn't listened in a while?
I would love to. This week's chapter was another big one, almost 17 minutes long. We decided to walk with Larson, which ends up with the king going off in a huff. Oops. But our walk with Larson does prove to be fruitful, if not also our undoing. Oops again. We finally get some of that sweet, sweet lore about Larson's time with Yellow, but Arthur lets the cat out of the bag about Kane's plan. When we meet back up with the king, Lilith tells Arthur to get on with it and talk with him. Arthur is still struggling to understand why John, his friend, is gone. The king explains that this is part of his journey, that he carries what he learned as John in being whole again, that this is not about Arthur. And Arthur grows to accept this, but he does want to say something to the memory of John that remains in the king, that he loves him too, and how he feels like he got to see some semblance of what it would have been like to see Faro grow and change. Friends and loved ones can't stay the same, no matter how much we want them to. This is the king's decision to make. And then Larson has to be a bitch and ruin everything. He brings out the body of Hastur and promptly smashes it with a rock. Nobody likes this. The king wants Larson to suffer, Lilith wants Larson's body, and the king leaves it up to Arthur. Does Larson deserve the sweet release of death? Or, rather, do we give Larson to Lilith, or leave him at the king's mercy?
I was not expecting Larson decides to be a bitch and ruin everything. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. What else is new? Larson has ruined everything every time he's been on screen.
Yeah. He has real, I think I'm the main character energy, and I'm ready to take him down a notch.
Well, before we get into our carrots and sticks and assorted other things, I want to let the public know, even though it will be a little bit late for them, we are celebrating Extra Life. What is Extra Life? It's the name of the charity fundraising event that Harlan and the entire Invictus stream takes part in every year. The challenge is to stay up and play games for 24 hours to raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And last year, they raised over $16,400, which broke their personal best record.
Like, out of the water.
By an insane amount. To celebrate that, we're going to have a special segment at the end of tonight's poll chat talk, so you can look forward to that. I posed a special question, and we're going to get some special answers.
Yay!
But for now, Vol, what was your sweet little treat in this episode? What was your carrot?
My carrot this week, and I know there's a lot of big moments that could be carrots, that were carrots for all of us, that we are all feasting, having our carrot harvest feast upon, but because everyone else is going to talk about that in some of our voice subs, I picked something that was a little gem, a little treat for just me. All of Lilith's little lines continue to be my carrot.
Yeah.
Her little, uh-oh, when the king walks off in a huff, fucking killed me.
It was very good.
Her stopping Arthur and being like, say less, my guy, just destroyed me. And at the end, when the king's like, you're giving him what he wants, she's like, so what? Everybody wins. And the king's like, not me.
Dude, she was speaking directly to me. I was like, so what? What's your fucking point, dude? Who cares who wins?
Oh, man. Yeah, she's been, I don't want to say that she's really replaced the sort of like Yorick like comedy break moments, but she has added this new kind of like flavor and dynamic that is, more than just sort of Arthur's thing and Arthur and John and the king, and I love it.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it adds flavor to a very, very good section where we need that flavor. I think it's great.
Yeah.
What was your stick?
Okay, so my stick came to me with brain blast while I was working on the summary. Is the king really gonna stay behind? And I say this like in part because of the poll wording, because the poll wording is specifically give Larson to Lilith or leave him with the king. Leave him with the king. And I know that
Yeah.
that's probably nothing. It's probably nothing. The curtains are probably just
Probably
blue.
nothing.
But it made me think about the fact that earlier, the king had said like, well, if you don't need me, I guess I'll just stay behind. And it has me wondering if he's really gonna stay behind. So that's my stick this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I hadn't thought about that till you brought it up, but yeah, that's a good point. Maybe the curtains are just blue. They probably are just blue, but I don't know. Interesting to consider. Like, we all know this is Arthur's journey.
Right.
So it would make sense if John stayed behind, but I don't know. I it's hard to tell.
No way. There's no way. There's no way.
I don't want to like immediately crush people's theories, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
What was your carrot this week, Queen?
I especially loved, well, that is not for you to choose, is it?
Oh,
and
man.
I loved all of the dialogue that came after that from the king or whoever it is at this point.
Yeah.
I loved hearing that rationale, and I loved that it is this defiance, this passion for and like embracing where he's at right now, even if he's not happy like that. I mean,
Right.
there's something so, to me, that just is so powerful about like, you don't have to like it, but this is how things are right now. And if I choose to be unhappy, you have to put up with that. Like, that is something that, like even my unhappiness is mine to choose. You don't get to take that away from me. And I know it makes you uncomfortable, but it's what I've chosen. And I really liked that.
And I think that the king's agency is so important right now. And he really makes a point about that, about not just being a part of Arthur, not just being a passenger, and this emphasis on wanting to embrace being whole. And then as Arthur goes on to accept that, I really loved that Arthur specifically said, like, I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you had to defend who you are. I thought that was really important too.
Yes, that too. And I think that it's so, like, I am so on the side of, like, no matter what we're talking about, speculating on all of that on the show or in the server or wherever, I'm honestly happy no matter what. I think this is going great so far. But I do think that there's so much credence to the idea that he's obviously, this is not what he wants. And especially, like, when somebody tells you, are you happy like this? And your response is, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The real answer is no, you're not happy like this.
For sure.
You're just avoiding saying that. And I think it's important that he sees that, Arthur sees that this was John's choice, even if he's decided it doesn't make him happy anymore. And it was important for him to accept and embrace that no matter what. It really shouldn't, because when you see somebody, it's so funny when you see somebody making a choice when you're like, no, oh man, that's gonna hurt you so bad, you're not gonna like that, and you know that, but you can't possibly tell them that and have it make a difference. You really can't. And I think you feel that a lot when you talk to, I mean, if you're a parent with your kids, for sure.
Right.
But I see that all the time in other ways, in other relationships in my life, where I'm like, I was there. I know what that's about to be like for you. And I know that you're about to make this choice that really sucked for me, but there's nothing I can do to prepare you for that. So you just have to go through that on your own. And I have to accept that you're not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
You have to experience this for yourself.
Yeah. You know what you just reminded me of is something that my mother said to me years ago, and I haven't thought about it in a long time. But when I was in sort of my early to mid 20s, my mom turned to me one time and she was like, I wish there was a way for me to take all of my experiences that I've had, all the mistakes I've made in my life, and put them in your head. But I know I can't do that. So I'm just going to let you make your own mistakes and support you through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's exactly what it feels like. And I loved hearing all of this condensed into a chapter. I think people really, I don't know if people can appreciate it in the moment, but we get so many lessons in Malevolent that are packed into like 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
We also get a whole week to digest it. And so I do feel like it's a very different experience for the public getting, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. The part is going to be unreal as one big section. I can't wait to listen to it all in one.
Yeah. Me too.
So what was your stick this week?
What do you mean true power lies in Arkham? What do you mean true power lies in Arkham? What are you fucking talking about?
What does it
you
mean?
Asshole.
Yeah.
And I am gonna put a fair amount of imaginary Monopoly money on the fact that that's where the obelisk is.
You think?
But I also don't know, because if it's supposed to be well hidden, why would it be in Arkham? Like I don't know.
I mean, Arkham,
I could totally.
Well, I don't know. Is Arkham in universe known for all this eldritch nonsense, or is it just a little Massachusetts town?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I guess
the way that
I guess Miskatonic University is canonically in Arkham,
yes, and
in Malevolent,
and there's a character that talks about having taken on specifically. Yeah, I think there's some credence to the idea. I don't want to say that it's totally for sure that's what it is, because what do I fucking know?
Yeah.
I'm really bad at predicting anything, but I'm happy to be bad at predicting anything. Like, whenever I'm wrong, I'm not upset. I'm excited.
Right. Yeah.
It's embarrassing. Yeah. It's embarrassing to be wrong. I've said it before. I hate being wrong on my show where everyone can see me, but I'm not mad about it.
But it always turns out cool and exciting.
Yes, I'm very excited. And I also am like so intrigued that Malevolent has kept my ongoing mystery-based brain engaged for this long. I'm really not. I'm usually like listening to a story and then halfway through going, okay, yeah, get back to the main plot. I don't care about this part. But Malevolent hasn't done that yet. In the almost 2 years I've been listening, I have not felt like I'm bored with this plot line. Hurry up and move along. I have loved all of it.
And it's part of it is that there's all these little breadcrumbs, and just when you're like, oh, that's never coming back, it comes back in a big way, and that's really exciting.
Yes, and I think I said this a few episodes of Autopsy ago. There's so many small things that feel like payoff, that I feel like it's sprinkled in enough that it makes me feel rewarded, rather than constantly blindsided or confused, or like trying to run around and pick up the pieces from 10 seasons ago or whatever. Because there's a lot of podcasts, and I think just mystery genre things that can make you easily feel like you're behind.
For
and
sure.
This doesn't do that.
For sure. I've been reading a lot of like mystery, like just like pulp paperback novels recently, a lot of Lawrence Block. And as much as I enjoy his writing and his stories, so many times I'm like, when did that happen? When did you find that clue? Or like, I'm like, even just 10 pages on, they'll reference something and I'm like, what? Did I miss something? So I think balancing that, like, reminding you that this is here, or reminding you that this is relevant, or hinting at some connections, doing that without being too heavy-handed is a real skill when it comes to writing a mystery.
Agree. I desperately wish I could write mysteries. I'm so bad at it. One day I'll take like a class or something and I'll learn how to do it. But man, it just fascinates me. How do you write a mystery in like and know the answer, but also find all the it's just so hard. I've even asked Harlan about this during like spooky streams, and he gives great answers, but it's so hard for me to wrap my brain around how you do it.
But you're like, but how do I do it? You're explaining it to me. I'm not understanding.
Step 1, draw a circle. Step 2, draw a cat.
Right.
Like, yeah. Let's listen to some voice subs about the episode.
Taliesin, he, him. What a beautiful chapter and a beautiful culmination of Jon's arc. It is one thing to build an identity when the beliefs are force-fed to you by a need to survive. It is another to take what works for you and blend it into who you really are. We have watched Jon grow over these 6 seasons, but he's never had the agency to choose who he was. Even his chosen name was something given to him essentially by accident, as John Doe came from a necessary act for the survival of his host. And now, as the king, he has the ability to choose. Whether he stays the king, or this vote breaks what we've all assumed to be a facade, remains to be seen. But now he has a choice, and he is realizing that he has the full autonomy to make that choice. And also, over the course of this chapter and the last, what a beautiful culmination of Arthur's character arc to stop seeing Ferrot and Jon as only their relationships to him and extensions of himself, as he has been prone to do, and now sees them as their own people with their own identities. He's finally learning to let go of the selfish tendencies that have shaped him over the course of this show. The growth in both of them is coming to a head as we near the end in the most heartfelt way, and I'm excited to see where this final chapter leaves us.
Thank you for your beautiful submission, and I will just say I love the point that you make about the fact that this is such a great turning point for Arthur to stop making the loss and the things that have happened about him and start focusing more on the reality of it, which is, see through Ferrot's eyes type thing. I think people often point out Arthur's flaws as though they are a thing that is somehow okay in the podcast, like it's framed in a positive way or that it's no big deal,
Right.
Which is an interesting take that I personally, just my opinion, don't agree with. I think that it's important to show that those things have never been a great thing, and that's the point. The protagonist is intentionally imperfect.
Right. It leaves room for growth, and I think that one of the growing pains that I think listeners are having right now is seeing these steps in that personal growth, and that can be really uncomfortable to see because it might not look the way you want it to. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how these steps affect kind of like not even their final form, but sort of the next stage of where they are as characters.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a beautiful step forward, and it is the beginning of a different Arthur, and I think that's great.
Yeah, and Taliesin mentions the king or Jon's autonomy and agency, and yeah, I think that is such an important thing to keep in mind while we're sort of grappling with like what the fuck is going on with the king.
Yeah, AK Trash Panda says this acceptance of who the king/Jon chooses to be goes hand in hand with writing Ferrot a song that is actually for her, something that isn't about his own baggage and shines all the light on the person he loves.
Yeah, very good. All right, our next submission is an email. It is from Fractals, who uses AM and its pronouns. And A says, "Hi, Autopsy. It's my first time submitting. I have many thoughts, but I'm going to zoom in on one specific line, technically a pair of lines." And they quote Arthur. "This dynamic between us, it's difficult for me to... I'm having a tough time. Coming from what we once were to what this is now, it feels like I've lost a part of me. The king in yellow. I felt that way too, but it will pass." And then A goes on, "So when I listened to this for the first time, my interpretation was Arthur and the king are talking about each other, which is worrying on the king's part. If there's anything this show has taught me, it's that that's not how grief works. That feeling of loss shouldn't pass. It shouldn't be something that you can let go of. It doesn't sound like he has mourned Arthur properly." And then I was reflecting on the line and had the thought, is he talking about losing Arthur or is he talking about losing Jon? Does he feel like he had lost a part of himself when becoming the king? And as the king, that feeling of loss has passed. I think it might reference both concepts, the loss of Arthur and the loss of himself as Jon, a general feeling of something being lost. It's also interesting to think about how he might have used yellow to fill the space that Arthur left, and in the process also lost himself as Jon. Becoming the king in yellow is a choice he made because it's a whole lot easier to be whole and eldritch than to be broken and human. Oh my god.
Ow, ow, jeez, ow.
What a banger line to leave us off on. Oh, Fractals.
Jeez. Thank
Wow.
you for your submission, Fractals. I mean, I think thank you. I kind of feel a pain in my chest I can't quite place.
But I really liked that a mentioned these lines specifically because that was almost my carrot, was Arthur admitting I'm having a tough time. Oh man,
Yeah.
the growth on this guy. He's not repressing all of his feelings. He's literally walking up and saying, "Hey, I'm having a tough time." We love to see
You
it.
have no idea how much strength that takes
Oh
when you are
gosh.
so used to carrying things all on your own. And I am queen of doing that. Vol
Queen
has
of
to
many
like
things.
wrench my I'm having a tough times out of me by force. I'm not good at admitting that I'm not doing okay, cuz man, it's just so much easier to keep pushing on and pretending that everything's fine. It really is. I'm not saying it's easy in the sense that it's not like it doesn't hurt.
Oh, you're saying that it's difficult being vulnerable. That's what you're saying. I got it.
I am very vulnerable. Thank you so much. I talk all about my feelings all of the time. Okay. No, but I think that makes a great point. It's so much easier to just focus on the wholeness and the fact that he is one again and he's
Yeah.
gotten back to this thing that he has left behind, rather than having to pick up the pieces of a broken heart without Arthur.
Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting that Fractals mentioned that John or the king might have used yellow as some kind of stand-in for Arthur. And yeah, I can only imagine because I don't think it's up for debate that John and Arthur were very codependent. I don't think that's up for debate. So upon separating, Arthur was thrust immediately with Lilith and maybe didn't have to unpack that in the same way, but John had his own body. He was in the body of Hastur, presumably, and yeah, got sent to the Dreamlands, and then he's alone and has to talk to Yellow. And oh man, I can only imagine what those first conversations were like.
Yeah.
Hello, Autumn here. So, here is my theory. The king says that this isn't about our feelings, and it isn't, but when he spouts nonsense like my happiness isn't a factor, I can't help but think that he's also trying to deceive himself into believing these lies as well, for both of our sakes. Because what if? What if John wasn't dead? Because we know that he's perfectly capable of terrible things. He could very well have treated Larson the way the king is currently if he let himself slip while performing the role of the king. Because that's what I believe this new king is. A performance. The king isn't the king of the arts for nothing after all. How many times has this king slipped up? He's been very careful to refer to John in the third person until his emotions get the better of him. I would have given everything up to have my voice heard. And note that this doesn't happen when he's talking about Yellow. We know that John can be cruel, oh so cruel, and we've seen it. John can tear Arthur down and rebuild him from the ground up. He can try and murder a priest out of pure spite and jealousy. He's killed thousands of Arthurs, so who's to say he can't alienate him as this king in what he believes is a more merciful outcome for them both? But the thing that he may not understand is that Arthur doesn't see this as a happy ending for him. Arthur wanted him to be entirely his own, has cherished watching him grow as he would of his own daughter. I believe that what we need to do going forward is to keep challenging him. There's only so much John can take, and it's our job to try and crack open this hard shell of martyrdom he's constructed around himself, and pull him out by the end of his goddamn cloak if we have to, which is why I want Lilith to take Larson's body in the vote this week. Anyway, that's all. Have a good autopsy.
Thanks for your submission, Autumn. I love when I'm voting for the same thing that other people are, but for wildly different reasons.
That's very funny. Yeah, I'm rotating the king in my mind every time he slips up and says I when he's talking about something that John experienced. And I think we did have one of those slip ups in this chapter.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
I think it's interesting. I think Harlan rarely writes things unintentionally.
Oh,
I don't know
absolutely.
that I don't know that I feel the same obligation to like keep challenging John, especially after Arthur just so broadly accepted
Yeah.
what he established that he was. But I do understand that not being like you can not like something, but also accept it. And then I
Hmm.
think that's kind of where Arthur's at, and
Well, and
where
I
I
think, yeah. And I think that we have to just hold space for the king to be entirely his own.
Yeah, agree. Agree.
Hi, this is Spade. I want to talk about the dialogue in this episode specifically. I love parallels or even potential ones, so I really do want to mention this. I find it very poetic that Arthur is now lecturing Larson about gods in season 6. Because in part 40, it was Larson doing it. Specifically when Larson says, "We have gods in us, Arthur. You and I, we have touched the otherworldly and we have lived. We have truly lived. You must feel it. The power that comes with having such a being inside." And now Arthur says to Larson, "Do you still not get it? You can't control these beings. You can control anything. These are gods, Larson. Witnessing our existence from a point of view that even attempting to comprehend can drive weaker minds mad. There is no controlling them." Obviously, the words and meanings are very different. It's just I find it interesting of how it started off Larson lecturing Arthur about the gods, and now it's Arthur doing it to him. I also like how the king's dialogue parallels Arthur's when Arthur was talking to himself, and both in their own moments were very justified. Arthur saying, "What arrogance, what ignorance. To live eons and to think they have a clue what it feels like to love on that level." And then the king's turn of saying, "What logic is it? What right? What arrogance you speak with in saying that a few months as John made me give up who I am." And if you notice, they're both talking about being told to give something up or someone. Arthur was upset because he was asked to give up Fro. The king in yellow was asked to give up himself. And both are justified in being upset about it. That is all. Bye-bye.
Spade, you're such a delight. Have I ever told you that? Thank you so much for submitting. I loved that.
Yes, Spade. I was so glad when I listened to your message because when I was writing the summary, when I was re-listening to the chapter today, I was like, wait a second. What arrogance? Isn't that exactly what Arthur said? And
yeah,
I love that this does, provide this really beautiful parallel between Arthur's relationship with being asked to let go of Faro and, the king's relationship with being asked to not let go of John. Not only is it a really cool parallel, but also it makes me wonder, is this a hint that the king overheard Arthur's whole soliloquy? Because I know we had been theorizing about whether or not the king had heard all that. Interesting.
Yes, agree. I do think that it is fascinating that both of them, I mean, like talking about being asked to let go or give up something. There's so many points in the show where I'm going, oh, that's what the manager said. Wait, no, that's what the manager said. No, that. Have I mentioned that I like the manager and I like that he gave us rules to follow? I miss when things had rules.
I know, Queen. Rules. I know.
Okay, it looks like we have another email. So this is an email from Oakley. Good evening, Autopsy. No voice today, alas, because I have something that must be typed. The John Stan in me needs to point out the comparison in the scene in part 51 where AJ speaks to Lilith by the fire, and the scene in this chapter where Arthur affirms the king's new identity. A fantastic scene, by the way. This chapter really pulled on my heartstrings and gave me an entirely new perspective on King. What I want to point out is the repetition of the words gone and dead to refer to John by both King and Larson, in contrast to something Lilith herself said in that aforementioned season 5 episode. And then there are screenshots of transcripts. I will not be performing. I am not Harlan Guthrie. You all know what this is supposed to sound like, so I'm just going to read it. Arthur. Wow, I really don't know what to say other than I'm so proud of you. Silly as that may sound, I can't believe it. I suppose, in a way, John is gone then? The King in Yellow says, yes. Arthur says, what? I didn't try to. I treated him as a friend. It doesn't matter. Maybe you didn't notice, but John is gone. Then Larson responds with, if you think he's gone, then you truly are blind. There's another screenshot here that has Arthur saying, so John is dead. The King in Yellow confirms, yes. Then we have a screenshot of the Lilith quote, not all things that are dead are gone, and not all things gone are dead. What does this mean? I have no full idea. It could very well just mean that Jon takes up a significant portion of the new king in yellow and will influence his values heavily, but I personally do not believe that Jon is never coming back. What are y'all's thoughts? First of all, that's crazy. I don't think people usually ask us questions in their submissions, but I kind of love that. Thank you
Oh my
for
gosh, you want to
asking. I
know
can't
our
believe you care.
opinion?
Oh my gosh, my
Wow.
thought? What? Yeah, I mean those are very good quotes to pull from. I think it's interesting that we've gotten so many quotes about not just loss but like memories, and I don't know,
Yeah.
there's this quote that we got in season 4 from this one guy. It says memories are just memories until you're dead, which
Yeah.
will plague me until I die, I think.
Yeah. Well, and you included that Lilith quote, which isn't that the Lilith quote that either heavily implied or we all assumed that it was talking specifically about Charlie? Am I misremembering?
I mean,
Is
I
that
don't
how I read it?
maybe I don't know. I'm sure I took any opportunity to point and giggle and hope.
I do think that, I mean, like Queen said earlier, like just earlier this episode, there is so much intentionality with Harlan's word choice. And so I think the fact that there has been this repetition of gone and dead and things like that, like I do think that there's something there. I think there's something there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in the same boat. I think I I was originally not that long ago saying, yeah, I'm just acting like John's never coming back in the capacity he used to be. And I kind of stand by that, not in the same way though. I think
Hmm.
John, if we get a version of John back, I mean, he's not going to be the same. He will never
Right.
be the same. You
Right.
can't have this experience and be the same exact person you were. I don't think that's
Yeah.
possible. I do think that there's a chance that we could get back to a version of his relationship with Arthur that
Yeah.
we'll see on screen. I don't think that it's completely lost to time, but I don't
What's,
think like that's like saying you're the same after, I don't know, after you have, oh god, I'm trying to think of like an equivalent life experience. I can't. I'm blanking.
okay. Well, it's like that quote, you can never go home again.
Yes. Oh my god. Yes.
Right. And that is one of the major points that Arthur comes to realize and vocalize in this chapter is the fact that, you know, friends and loved ones change and you may want them to stay the same. Oh man, Arthur saying like directly admitting I want him to be the same. I want you to be John.
Yeah.
And having to come to terms with the fact that like that person has changed and they will continue to change because that's the nature of people and hopefully you can grow with him rather than mourning something that may never come back in the same way.
Yeah, and I see some confusion in chat. I don't mean to say that John, as we know him, is gone forever in the way that we'll never hear him say, fuck yeah, Arthur, ever again. But I do think that fundamentally, you're not the same person after an experience like this. So
Yeah.
John may not have the responses you expect him to have, or he may have learned something new that he carries over into his new relationship with this, well, returning to a relationship with Arthur that is closer to the one we have seen him and have through the podcast. And I think there's room. I like that it leaves room for John to have reactions and
Hmm.
responses that are different from what we would have gotten had he never had this experience.
Maybe John's gonna get a little fancy. Maybe he's gonna have a little regal king moment now and then.
Maybe he's gonna need a throne. I wouldn't complain. I love a good regal gentleman.
I love that for him.
I love this screenshot that Oakley just posted. It's going to be okay, but it's going to be different. It's very
Yeah.
in line with how I feel about all of this right now.
Yeah, that's a good sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Autopsies. Gogoat here, any pronouns? Gotta say I disagree with Larson. It is at least partially his own fault that he is in the Dreamlands. Arthur whittled Yellow down, sure, but Larson was the one who took advantage. These gods can't be changed, but that's what you did, Arthur, with both Yellow and John. The inconsistencies of the king right now. The king says that John is before you, but he's also dead. I am further from the king, and you echo his sentiments about being whole. He's happy, or this is how it's supposed to be, and yet he made a literal mausoleum for John. Also, he said no. The king always knew him as Charlie. The king almost sounds in pain trying so hard to convince Arthur, and yet it barely sounds like he's convinced himself. His menacing tone fizzling out, his contradictions spilling out. It's like he's at war with himself, like John promised in part 20. And I'm getting scared that this is what letting go was supposed to mean. Letting John become the king, become someone he didn't expect, someone he watched grow in a way that he can't quite understand. Guys, I really miss John. As for the vote, I say let Lilith take Larson. But I do have a few little questions. If this means Lilith has Larson's voice from now on, I'm immediately flipping. Although I assume, because she can shapeshift, that probably won't be the case, but I do not want to have to listen to Larson for an entire season. Also, will this kill Larson and send him to the Dark World, or just erase him? Either way, seems like a net win, but...
Thank you, Gogoat. I think I also miss John. I was not originally saying that, but I do think I miss John now. It took me longer than everybody else by like 3 chapters, but I do miss John now.
It's okay. I think it was only last week that I finally broke and was like, I miss John.
I miss John.
But, oh man, Gogoat, I didn't even think about the fact that the mausoleum was built for John. But it was built, we assume, to house the body of Hastur. And so if John considered finally becoming whole again as like a moment that John died, yeah, that mausoleum, damn, John, the fragments of the King in Yellow, just making mausoleums on making shit out of bones all over the place.
Well, I honed in on the fact that everyone's talking a lot about the king and what name he knew the specific side character by. I honestly can't tell if that's intentional. I know that sounds crazy of me to say, but I can't tell if it's supposed to be a thing we pick up on or not.
Right.
I have been acutely aware of how often Charlie's death has come up. And, you know, the fact that Larson thinks he's dead and we've been told by an unreliable narrator that he's not.
Yes.
I have to point out that, like...
Listen. The fact that he has been said to be dead multiple times recently leads me to believe that our expectations are going to be subverted.
Yeah, I hope... I can't even want to say I hope so. Oh my god.
We got a he's dead from Joe in the chat. Oh no.
No. Ow. Joe, ow. Listen, okay. There's one guy that says he's still alive, and I'm kind of clinging to that. But at the same time, I know that guy is like the least trustworthy person on earth, and we're actually trying to get him to stop from like destroying everything, so maybe I shouldn't. I think it is interesting that he's come up so often, though. Yep. I think even if that doesn't mean he's coming back, I think it's interesting that he's becoming relevant.
It's very interesting.
I know that the Butcher got mentioned a bunch before he showed up, so
we'll see.
Shrug emoji. Getting my hopes up. I'm not getting my hopes up, but I see it and I acknowledge it.
Yes. Before we get fully into, or maybe I should save this for after we fully get into vote talk, but I was just going to comment on the fact that Gogoat said, if Lilith takes Larson's voice, then they're out. And I think that's funny, but like, it would be, and I don't know what to expect. I half expect for this body swap to go wrong because we haven't had a fucking successful body swap on screen yet, so knock on wood. But I think it would be really interesting if like Lilith's like fucked up scratch voice came out of Larson. That would be cool. But also,
that would be cool.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting if it works at all. I'm still not convinced that this is going to work.
I would love it. I can't say more than that, but I would love it if that's what happened. I think it would be so much fun. I also think that Larson's fate having been left up to us pretty much. It's so funny. 7 minutes into the episode, you hear them talk about Larson brings up the fact that he wants Arthur to tell the king to let him die and to like kill him. And I metaphorically turned to Vol in our first listen through, and I was like, Thank God we don't have to choose whether or not to kill Larson.
Oh, thank God that's not going to be the vote.
Thank God we don't have to vote on that.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
several minutes later, I put on a clown nose because I was
Yes.
made a fool of.
Yes.
And with that, I think that's a perfect segue into vote talk.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
This week's vote was give Larson to Lilith versus leave Larson with the king. Right now, it is a Friday night with 433 votes total. And the percentage that has voted to give Larson to Lilith is 86%, while leave Larson with the king is 14%. So kind of has been that way from the drop.
Yeah.
I don't think there was even a little bit of movement. It's just been very heavily one-sided, this vote. But that doesn't mean there weren't some pretty damn good discussions and conversations to be had.
Taliesin, he, him. On the topic of the poll, we're all rather one-sided, and I don't think there's much to say that we haven't said already. Larson is as unrepentant as I expected, and truth be told, I'm happy for it. I love the foil of Arthur, who has realized he doesn't deserve to die and has come to grips with what happened with Faroe, versus Larson, who still believes he did nothing wrong, and now wishes for death in the face of the consequences to his actions. Narratively speaking, it's better that Larson has had zero growth. Do I think death is too good for him? Absolutely. I want that little freak to suffer. But we're in the endgame now, and there won't be many chances left to get a body. So emotions aside, we have to do what we have to do to keep this story rolling. And if you're like me, who believes one Mr. Charlie Dowd is around here somewhere, I'm not willing to take the chance that Lilith's next vessel is our dearest Charlie boy. I love Lilith, but sorry, doll, that one's off limits.
Taliesin, I'm going to give you the award for best submitter ever, actually. Best autopsy listener, best submitter ever, says the things I can't say.
Oh man.
I love you.
But yeah, Taliesin, that's a really good point. Like, no, she can't have Charlie. That's sorry.
We're running out of bodies, and Larson's is available,
bodies.
so we're going to take that one. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I honestly, I am so 100% on board with Lilith. Like, everybody wins if she takes Larson's body.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, just this once, everyone wins.
Is that a Doctor Who reference?
Shut up.
You don't even go here.
Pie, she, her. You can lead a Larson to his water bowl, but you can't make him drink. Regardless, the king needs to get rid of his torture pet. Why has the king so heavily internalized what Arthur believed at his bedrock? Yellow, I'd understand. He has motive to keep Larson as a pet. He's returning the favor. But this is the John in the king. He had the capacity to let Larson die, and he didn't. Why? I mean, this comes short of what John promised Larson in part 40, but why has this wrath continued to burn? What's fueling the king's fire? Larson sucks. We know that. How badly did the king need an example? What is Larson actually an example of? I keep thinking to what the king has actually accused Larson of. Being a murderer and a monster? Name someone in the room with us right now who isn't. What is the king so hung up on? And it feels so impersonal. He doesn't say, you took Noel from me. He throws out Charlie's death out of hand. You are the one who was hell-bent on making him suffer, who agreed his death would not bring you fulfillment. What Arthur was trying to fulfill was his own punishment. If the king is trying to fulfill the same, Larson is the example of what he deserves.
Yeah, thank you so much for your submission, Pie. Fucking banger as always. Yeah, that was actually something I think we were talking about. Was it last autopsy maybe? Where it was very much like, this could be me. This could absolutely be Larson. And like, what fate would I don't know. It's just such a fitting moment for Arthur to once again be faced with the villain that he saw himself in and have to choose again.
Right. And also how whether the king or part of, John that is part of the king is projecting so much of himself onto Larson. And I'm wondering now if like at that crucial moment where they make that decision that Lilith is going to take Larson's body, if the king is going to have some sort of like visceral reaction, not because they're going against like his quote unquote like wishes to torture Larson, but because of like the deeper seated self-loathing or guilt that's behind that.
Interesting. Well, I think that's all we have for the vote talk. But we do have a lot to talk about when it comes to what people were feeling about Extra Life.
Yeah, Extra Life.
Yes. So, to celebrate Extra Life, we asked patrons to send in an email answering the question, what episode of Malevolent gave you an extra life, in just one sentence?
What does that even mean, gave you an extra life?
I am so glad you asked, completely on your own, with no help from this shared Google Doc we're reading from. Vol, I left it up to interpretation. Did it make you cry? Did it make you learn something about yourself, about the world? Did it inspire you to create again? That kind of stuff. So it shouldn't surprise anyone, however, that some of you had trouble keeping it to one sentence. So for those who went over the limit, I've summarized your words as best I can as to not leave you out. And I will just start with this first one. Hi, this is Spade. Any pronouns? The episode that I would say gave me an extra life would be part 54, The Living Wake, specifically the scene of John's eulogy, and the words he says gave me a lot to think about, and I connected with it emotionally.
An episode that meant a lot to Misraa is part 49, The Suspects, because when Arthur and John are thrown into the forest beneath the castle and Arthur is sick, injured, and ready to give up, John recites Invictus, giving him the strength to keep going. And as she listened while literally sitting in the rubble of her collapsed apartment ceiling, overwhelmed by insurance, property managers, and moving, it encouraged Misraa to keep going too, reminding her that if Arthur can survive the horrors, she can handle this. I almost forgot that that's what was going on with Misraa during that episode.
Yeah, because that was,
Wild.
I think that was Misra's answer last year too, and I really liked it. It was a very hard time for Misraa, and shockingly enough, was still doing autopsy editing with all that going on. Misraa is truly the backbone of autopsy.
MVP Misraa.
Fully. Hi, autopsy friends. Taliesin, he, him. One episode of Malevolent that gave me an extra life was part 20, The King, because, not to get too deep, as someone who is no contact with their parents, Arthur's poem about his parents resonated deep in my soul about the tricky intricacies of the good memories you do have with your parents, even among all the bad. I love that one too, Taliesin.
Yeah. Seer says, Seer, she, her pronouns. Part 43 gave me an extra life because not only is it pivotal to John's journey with his identity and accepting the value he has within himself, but it also serves as a reminder that the world is so much brighter because my friends walk it, and I am a better person because of them. Oh.
I know, Seer. Oh. Hello, AK Trash Panda here, she, her pronouns, and the episode of Malevolent that gave me an extra life was part 9, The Boat. It was the episode that truly hooked me for the first time I listened. The massive swing from being at each other's throats in the beginning to their gentle, scared compassion as Arthur sustains his first fatal injury put me in my feels in a way I was not expecting and changed my understanding of the show. It was the first time I felt the hope part of horror and remains one of my favorite episodes to this day. Super underrated episode.
I was just going to say, that's a deep cut, and that's a really, really good one. Really good moment.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Nukuome, he, it pronouns. And the episode that gave me an extra life has to be the first, because starting this podcast is what pulled me out of a several years long drawing slump and let me meet so many new friends I can't imagine not having in my life.
Pie, she, her, part 3. I needed something to sink my teeth into, and all it took was a typewriter for me to sit down and pay attention. Where would I or Arthur be without the Wraith's breath of life? Pie, even your tiny extra life submission goes hard. You are such a good writer.
Unsurprisingly, very mysterious answer. Deep lore
Good
answer.
God.
Our next one is from Faye, who uses she, they pronouns. Part 51 gave me an extra life by reminding me that fighting to hold on and create the good and beauty in the world matters regardless of the outcome.
I love Faye. Slate, they, them. Part 20, The King, gave me an extra life because crying over the gorgeous emotional wreckage of Lily's death, Arthur's poem, and their mutual sacrifices provide me some much-needed catharsis on days when my own life gets to be too much.
So real. Part 20 lives on in my brain rent-free forever.
Fully.
Our next one is from Fractals, who uses AM and its pronouns. An episode that gave me extra life was episode 43, The Witch, because as a trans person, it was so powerful to see John deciding who he gets to be despite what the world tells him.
Milk, they them, wrote in very enthusiastically. They said that they loved part 45 so fucking much because we get to see how Arthur's beginning to be able to forgive himself for his past boo-boos with Thoreau, whilst being able to acknowledge that he's fucked up through the line, I couldn't condemn a man to death simply because he committed an atrocity, really hitting home that we all make mistakes, some mistakes worse than others, that doesn't dictate who we are.
And we heard from Rose, she, her pronouns. The number of moments Rose could list as giving her an extra life is endless, but her first answer is the interstitial da capo, where we finally meet our dearly beloved Peter Parker Yang, learn who he is and how he shaped Arthur, hear the beautiful new piano music and immersive Arkham office soundscape, and in just 3 minutes and 14 seconds get the long-awaited glimpses and answers she'd been hoping for since part 1.
That was so good. Thank you guys so much for submitting. I loved hearing your favorite bits of Malevolent that gave you an extra life.
Yeah, thanks everybody for sharing.
Vol and I talked about what we were going to say, what our episodes are going to be, and we kind of both agreed on the fact that, well, I think Vol, I think you put it really well. So I'm going to let you tell everybody what our episode of Malevolent is.
Yeah, we had some thoughts, some ideas, but we realized that the episode of Malevolent that gives us extra life is next week's episode. Every week.
Yeah.
The next
Every
episode
week. Whenever
is the
you're
one
listening to this,
that
we're
gives
looking
us
forward
extra
to the next
life.
one. Yeah. Because without weekly episodes, I wouldn't have a podcast, wouldn't have my life changed, wouldn't have all of the beautiful, wonderful connections I've made since starting it, and wouldn't have a nearly as much appreciation for a piece of media that I think about every day and all the time.
Yeah. And I think that each episode, Harlan finds new ways to inspire us, to comfort us, to challenge us, to make us laugh. And he's truly a force of nature. And I am just astounded at what he's able to create and the generous kind of person that he is, and that he's going to be doing a 24-hour stream for charity in 3 hours. 2 hours?
Insane. And he's sick.
Yeah.
By the way, the man's doing it while sick as a dog.
Poor guy.
So, incredible determination,
rain, sleet,
absolute
or shine.
Representation of Invictus. Like,
yes,
dude really embodies what he preaches. I think that's incredible. I also think that the constant and running nature of Malevolent, the perseverance of it is so direct. It's such a inspiring and driving force for me. I mean, that's what this podcast was inspired by. The fact that it was an episode every week, no matter what, is kind of the point of Autopsy for me. Just like on the back end, of course, there's a lot of important things about Autopsy. It's not why the show was started, just to make something, but it is a huge part of what got me to do this specific thing. And this specific thing has been one of the best things I've chosen to do. It has grown with me, and it will continue to grow with me. And doing it with my best friends in the world, and specifically like the Arthur to my John, John to my Arthur at times, has been such a great thing. We're closer for it. We're better friends for it. It's absolutely given me a million extra lives.
Yes. Yeah. Yep, Malevolent has opened doors and possibilities that have given me a million extra lives.
I love it. Great. And with that, we are going to be relaxing for another 2 hours until we have to all stay up for 24 hours. Good luck, everybody.
We'll see you around the table.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Misraa, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent. Until next time, the horrors persist.
But so do we.